Hello, everybody. Hi. Happy Tuesday. Happy Valentine's Day to those that are here, those that are watching the replay, anyone that is celebrating, and just a reminder that it can be celebrated in every single way. Give to yourself, give to someone else. Actually, this morning, my boyfriend was like, oh, I didn't know it was you just give to anyone that you love. I'm like, I think that's the point. He's like, I thought it was just like your lover. I was like, no, anyone you love, anybody. All right, you guys, how is everybody feeling? I know there was the activation on Saturday with Jack, and then your call yesterday. How are we doing? How are we settling in? How is everybody, feeling energetically? There was a bunch of questions inside of the chat before I jumped on in the last half hour, so I will get to those later. I haven't let out my activation call stuff yet. I am applying my HD advice, life-changing. Oh my gosh. Okay, amazing, you guys. Continue. Remember, there's so many moving pieces. I just want to bring this in before we get started on 4, 5, and 6s, but there's so many moving pieces inside of the matrix. Even again, going into the symbolism of that video, right? All of the moving pieces that are taking place. And I really want you to center that into yourself, in your mind, into your energy, into your body. So much rearranging and so much changing and shifting and landing and, just cells absorbing it. So whether your movement is feeling really chaotic right now, or whether you're feeling like it is a little bit stuck, it is still moving. It is a work in progress, and this is the matrix. So remember that. Okay. Lynn, hello. I have to lead a group at 1:30, so I'm here for 6, being a 6-3. No problem. Amazing. Leigh, is there a way to derive value from the 4, 5, 6, given I'm not and don't know who is? 2, sorry. So not specifically for you, there will be nothing for you specifically. Again, if you do know someone, or you're going to figure somebody else out later, but you can always watch on replay. But we are going into specifically 4, 5, and 6s today. Okay, so let's not waste any time and let's do it. Okay, so we covered 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to go back over those on my next call and kind of integrate everything together, because there were some questions of 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, what is that going to look like? So I'm going to bring everything together. And then I had previously made up some really fun names of what I would call these lines inside of some sexy energy with selling with your human design profile. So for example, our one line, I like to call our one line the hot teacher. So I'm gonna drop these in there. I'm gonna have the alpha team redo up my PDF so that it matches inside of the matrix, and then we'll drop it for you guys, and then I'm gonna add it into our next call. But just some more fun names to be going with in the energy. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. All right, so 4 lines. Okay, so who here is a 4 line? So again, we're on we're up to the second part of our house now. So when you are a 4 line, you are an opportunist, is what they call it inside of human design. I have a much more fun, sexier name for that. I'm going to drop in the next call, but this is all about friendship and really moving up the steps in life. Like if we look at it like that, it's like all about connections and networks. So you're here for influence, you're here for community, you are here to be flirty. All of our fourth lines, I see the flirts. You really value friendships. It's really important to you. That doesn't have to be like huge networks and huge friendships. Like it can be really intimate. So again, don't go in and be like, oh, that's not me. I know a lot of fourth lines actually really prefer like the intimate connections rather than a whole bunch of friends. And then vice versa. Some others prefer a lot of friends. But you guys are all about like coming through your community to actually connect and gain opportunities and connections in order to continue to grow your network. And you go into other people's networks and you also bring something to them. So it's always like this give and take. So it's all about connections. It's also, you guys are also very service orientated. So you have this inner leadership, connections, and deep trust. You're here to deeply connect and to rise from here. So it's really interesting because I end up with a lot of fourth lines in my life. I obviously am a 5'1", but I end up with so many fourth lines inside of my world. And it's so interesting to see the differences in all of them. Liz Coyles, who again worked at Align by Design, one of my best friends, she's a 4-line and she has connections from like literally like, I'm like, I didn't know you were friends with that person in high school. She'll like call them on the phone and talk on the phone. She has like business connections, just like so many different places where she's just like, yeah, I'm friends. And as a 5th line, I would be like, oh, like I wouldn't consider that person like a friend, where she's like, I'm friends with all of these people, right? Like really outer extended. My partner, he's a 4th line also. So he literally, I told you guys, but like he literally is connected everywhere we go. We were somewhere in Toronto yesterday, like way out North Toronto. We run into someone. I was like, how? It's everywhere. So it is so wild. And when we make these connections and we really specifically look in business, a lot of 4th lines can play really small in their connections because you become friends with people. And it's like, how do you run a business when you're friends with people, right? And I see that in his business. He's like, well, I'll just, you know, we trade off, or like, I'll just do it for free, or, you know, whatever. Like there's a lot of giving, right? Remember, as 4th lines, you guys are like service providers. Like you love to provide for people. So there's this element of coming to the party and having something to share with people and then leaving like empty-handed, right? So
what was the yelling about?
Somebody is here. When you really step into your power and when you own that power, what's going to happen is you elevate to the state where you know what you're bringing to the party. You are so aware of what you are bringing to the party, and you are excited to bring it to that party, and you are excited to watch everyone be like, oh my gosh, that smells so good. What is that? And you're also excited to explain to everybody exactly how you made it, or what it is, or why it's so amazing, why it's so delicious, and why nobody else has ever thought of it. Like you're the one bringing it and serving it and being like, yes, they will remember me. They are going to fall in love with this dish. It is so good. Okay. So in your utmost power, you're going to be walking around like knowing what you've got and not being afraid to present it to people, to be like, here it is, like on my platter, like very clear. You can smell it, you can see it. You want to take a bite, right? So owning that is going to elevate you into especially your sales, because 4th lines, when you are not in that power, it's again just like, somebody's messaging me behind the scenes, I'm giving free coaching, or somebody wants this, somebody wants a, you know, whatever, like you're giving towards them rather than knowing what you're showing up with. Okay. So 4th lines in your power, you're showing up with it. Where the connection comes for this is that now you're going to get like even connections, right? You're going to see somebody else at that party that has like, yes, that guac dish over there, right? And you're like, oh, I see your dish. You see my dish. Yay. You know, I like you, you like me. Let's be friends. Let's connect. We exchange numbers and it works for you. So we want a win-win-win-win-win in every single way for 4th lines. We don't just want to feel like we're giving and never getting back, or people aren't recognizing your gifts, right? People don't see what you're really bringing to the party because you're not owning that. So it is about continuing that connection, continuing the relationship building for you guys, specifically in business too. It's going to be amazing to obviously have some sort of referral system, like works amazing for you guys. Also, as many testimonials as possible is really good for you guys as well, because again, people are just like excited to give back to you guys and be like, oh my gosh, this was so good. Jack is really good at this. You can see she's doing this a lot lately too. It's just like, here I am, you know, here's what I'm doing. Here's my work. You don't need to sell. You're selling in a way that is like, here's the presentation. Here's my platter, you know, like here is my platter. Here's the recipe. Here's the ingredients. Here's the final product. Like, how good does that taste? And letting people have a taste of it. Okay, does that work for you guys, fourth lines? Does that make sense? The thing not to fall into is to the lack of awareness of like what you bring to the party or how good it is, or not knowing if you're showing up to the party with something, right? Like make sure you show up to that party with something, learn how to connect in the ways that really like connect with you. So making sure that when you show up to that party, you're open to receive, you're open to make connections, and you're again asking for the connection post. So continue to make connections beyond. All right. The sales part of it. Okay. So more sharing and inviting versus direct calls to action. Yeah. So, I mean, you can continue like, again, like here's my food. Like I'm showing up at the party. You can be that direct. Like you don't not have to be, like you can be that direct. The thing is that you don't have to be, right? Like you can also be like, oh my gosh, like this is what so-and-so said. If you have those referrals, if you have the opportunity for somebody to, you know, share the work that you're doing together, share those too, right? Like invite people in and at the same time sell and showcase what you're doing. So I think that word showcase is very important for fourth lines. Showcase, right? So that could be in the sense of like very traditional selling. You're showcasing what you have for sale. You can also be showcasing your gifts, right? Through live experiences, through going on there and doing like a Q&A. You can also be showcasing in the sense of somebody said this about me, like here is the testimonial that I'm sharing. So just open the gateway to be showing more. Your sales will come natural and you can very directly sell as well. You're welcome. Okay, going into our fifth lines. So fifth lines, who are the fifth lines here? Besides me. Okay, so our fifth lines are also called the heretics. Okay, we have Abby, Christie. So basically what happens for our fifth lines are born leaders. They're really meant and their life work is to lead other people. So it's so important for us. We can see out of this window, but people, like the example in human design is that like we're looking out of the window, like on that top floor of the house, and we can see out of the window. So we can see everything so clearly. If you're a projector, we have a double projection going on here. So you can see out of the window so clearly, but people can't fully see into you, right? So they can't fully see like who's in the window. So imagine like there's drapes, right? And you're standing there and you're looking out there and you can see perfectly. And maybe it's nighttime. So it's like lit up outside, but like they can't quite see into you. So they can't really see clearly of who you are. So a lot of fifth lines get very lost in the projection field because although we're meant to be these leaders, it's like, wait, what? You want me to do what? So what will happen is fifth lines will step up in the leadership roles in the lowest frequency out of projections and wants of other people. So when someone wants you to lead in a certain way and you're like, well, that's not my expertise. I don't really want to lead there. That doesn't excite me, whatever, you still do it because you're a good leader, right? And even as in something you don't want to do, you will become an excellent leader and you're able to lead people, you're able to lead yourself. But at the end of the day, what will happen is you're going to feel so unseen. You're going to feel so unrecognized. Again, if you're a projector, you're going to have this double amount, but you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like they don't really get me, or I'm undervalued, or, you know, they don't see everything that I'm holding. You make leadership look really easy also. So it's so important for you to be like, oh my gosh, I am doing all of this as a leader. In your projections, it is so important that you begin to say no to the projections that are put upon you of how you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to lead. This will also go in your life, right? People will just expect things of you as a fifth line. So you have to decide how you want to be seen. So it's like you're in that window and you're going to turn on the lights in the house and you're going to pull back the blinds and you'll be like, here I am, I'm right here. Everybody see me. You can see me clearly now. So you have to decide to open up those curtains and turn on the light so that people can see you. Now, how you're being seen is going to be very important for you from a place of integrity, because you have to be in integrity with how you're actually projecting yourself out, and to be true, like very, very, very authentic and true for you, because you will pick up and attract in more and more and more. Now, you are, as fifth lines, we can become very, very seductive too. So our magnetism is really, really strong when we're in this zone of like certainty and the feeling of like, I know what I'm doing. So this is where a lot of fifth lines will also shut down and be like, I don't want to be seen. I'm gonna, close those curtains again, because it can become so strong where so many people are seeing you. Okay, there's a question of what does this look like practically? So if you're going to go out and actually, Juliana, even with you, right, of like, okay, how do I speak to these two different audiences? You're still essentially selling the same thing. Your services are a little bit different, but how do you speak differently? As fifth lines, this identity work is really important to us, because we're going to shift slightly our identity into what we want to be leading and how we want to be leading. So if you're going to be leading, let's say online, leaders and coaches online that are making a lot of money versus you're very corporate, or, like you had said, the people that are trading their time for money, you're having different conversations. So you're going to decide your energy differently, and you're going to put out and really focus the expectation on what you can do and put that expectation out to them so that there's no blurry lines, right? So if you're like, you could, I think you were like 190K or something, right? And it's like effortless money coming in. You want to, again, speak to that audience in a very projected way of like, this is what it looks like. This is what I do. This is how I do it. And this is what you're going to expect from that, right? Like, it's almost like these very like direct rules so that there's very little confusion. And again, when you hold your energy around who you're speaking to, how you want them to be seen in that role of what you're leading and how you're leading it, becomes really clean and effortless for you. Now, again, the conversation over here is going to be a little bit different, because you're going to use maybe a different vocabulary, or you're going to hold yourself and present and speak a little bit differently than you would over here, right? So you get to play with the seductive energies, but do it in a way where your leadership is going to be seen and understood from the stance that you're bringing to the table, not of what they're going to assume, like not really leaving that room for assumption or for that throwback on you to be like, well, could you do it this way? You're going to be like, well, no, we can't. This is how I run it, right? This is how it happens. This is how we go, or this is the process in which we do it. So being very clear and direct, or even, being a mom, like how are you running and operating your business? Like in my business, I'm very clear about, how I operate, how I work, what I do, how I'm running my business around my children, especially, making sure that they're very cared for and that I'm very hands-on there. So that's an important thing that I continue to talk about. So playing with this energy is really important for our clarity in how we show up, and then how we sell something and bring the right people into our world. So this is also, doesn't that cause confusion if I'm speaking that way to two audiences on the same platform? I don't think so. I would be like super, super clear, right? Like I'd be like, here I am speaking to the people that are already creating a life of, financial freedom and time freedom. And now you're looking to supplement with a very hands-off experience where you're going to be led, you're going to be supported, and you're going to be making more money, potentially even matching the money that you're making in a month without needing to do absolutely anything. And then over here, it's going to be a little bit of a different conversation because of the situation they're already in. So maybe you're preparing for the future, or maybe you are now wanting to bump your retirement up to even earlier, or work part-time right now and supplement with the money that we're making on the side. Again, hands off, but now you're integrating and infusing more of that freedom there. Jess says, I'm a hermit with the blacks. the blocks out closed. Okay, so yeah, so the other thing about a fifth line is that we do have this, as I just said, like this very seductive energy that we can really shut down because we don't want to become too magnetic. So any fifth lines here, do not be afraid to let yourself be a little bit sexier. Have fun with it, seduce, play, you know, like if you have allowed yourself to be at a moment where you're like, holy cow, I'm so magnetic right now, like you are seductive, eyes are on you, and people are just like, when I mean seductive, I don't even mean in the sexual energy, I just mean in this like drawn to you energy. So when you can keep that open, you're keeping yourself in check in the terms of leadership. You are leading in the way that you want to. Allow yourself to be that bright. Allow that seduction to take place, because it's going to make everything in your life so much easier than you turning it off. So there's a thing about the fifth line where fifth lines have this like stranger of consequence. So basically, if people come in, and all of us are going to experience this as fifth lines, but people will come into your world and be like, I expected this out of you, you didn't do it, and like, I think you are the worst thing that has ever existed. Like people will become so mean. You're like, pardon? Like what? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand, like, where did this happen and how did this happen? Like, it can happen out of the blue, but there's this energy that all of a sudden, if you're not delivering, if they came in somehow and there was a slip in your power or your certainty, or again, what you're leading and how you're leading it, and they come in and had an expectation and you did not meet the expectation, like it's done. They will probably never come back into your world again. They will say something very rude and they will see you as that for eternity. So it's just something to be very aware of, how seductive we can be at the other end. There can be like a switch that is flipped where people are just like, see ya and goodbye forever. So we also want to be aware of if you're shutting your magnetism down during that, because we can do that in order to protect and be like, I need people out of my world, right? If it becomes too much sometimes. So our fifth lines want to really come with this outer leadership. Like our outer leadership is everything. Again, we are born leaders. We can lead in anything at all. We want to make sure that we are only leading in the places that we want to be leading, and really project that very safely out to the world and our audiences. I also will say that like fifth lines, when I say like you could lead anything, you're probably the person like in class where the teacher was like, I'm leaving, and puts you in charge, right? Or the kid in your family where they're like, okay, like you're the babysitter, and you're like, well, they're older than me, but like, you're like, okay, fine, right? You just have this leadership about you, and you probably have gone through in school and create like even jobs where you're in these natural leadership roles. So if you are dimming down your leadership right now, it is time to amp it up, because you were born to do that. Okay, so sixth line. So our role models, you guys are on the top of the house, and I like to call you guys the new age leaders. So you guys are here to be peacemakers. You also are visionaries. You have massive transformations. Yay, so many six slides. You guys have massive transformations, because if you remember during the third line, I briefly spoke about, you know, if you're sixth line, you're a third line for the first 30 years of your life, and then you transition into the sixth line. So out of every single line, you go through the most transformations, like deep integrated transformations. And this is why you guys are so wise. I always call you guys like the little Buddhas. So you are like the Buddhas of our world. You just are so wise. You just have like this natural way of speaking about your wisdom too. It's not like you're like a fifth line will come from, again, this very leadership role. Like six lines are just like you're there leading, and you're just spilling wisdom out of you as you speak, not even knowing that you were doing it, not with any intention or any reason behind it. It just oozes out of you. So you must be living in the moment. It is so important because even as you've transitioned out of your third line, right? The third line is that trial and error. You still need to be living in the moment as a sixth line, because your experiences, especially real, like hands-on real life, yesterday, this morning experiences, are going to be integrated with your wisdom. So you're going to gain more wisdom through the more that you are living and experiencing. So I'll often say, like, sixth lines will be the ones that, you know, they just like love to travel, or they will pick up their life and move across the world every, you know, couple years, or just have like these big moments of experiences or opportunities, or again, are super busy, are out and about, are integrated into a lot of communities where you're having conversations with people, you're experiencing a lot, even during like a day-to-day basis. So it's so important because you are the teachers through experiences and embodiment. This is not about teaching in like factual information. It is all about teaching your wisdom through your life. So this is also what makes you guys so unique, is that not only do you go through these stages in your life, but you also are here to speak in a very individualized way. And your wisdom is literally only going to be your wisdom. So, as I'm just going to break down like our 3 stages that you guys go through. So from birth to 30 is your first one, which is that third line trial and error experiences. During this time, and I touched on this during the third line thing, but during this time, it's very hard for you guys as sixth lines during the first 30 years compared to like a full third line. The full third line has much more resiliency than you guys do, because if we think of like, you know, this deep wise, like Buddha, and like just all of this wisdom coming through, you guys are more sensitive, right? So those first 30 years affect you and kind of, like I say, like haunts you a little bit more of the failures. Like those experiences, like they're just more sensitive to you, and there's something that becomes the wisdom. So you continue to kind of relive them, so they can feel like they haunt you a little bit deeper. Your 30 to 50 is all about the healing and reflection. So we say, like those first 30 years are on the ground, real life, you're running through life, right? Experiencing it head on. And then 30 to 50, that healing and that reflection, you're up on that rooftop and you're really discovering yourself. You're really understanding who you are. You're having people begin to see you for that wisdom, right? Even as you talk about when I was 21 and this happened, you're having wisdom come in here, and people are starting to really, like, as you settle into it, it's settling for them too. So a lot of healing from those first 30 years are taking place during those next 20 years. Now, none of this means, if you're sixth line, none of this means your success comes later in life. You are seen later in life. You're not going to be seen until you're 50 beyond. Like none of it means any of that, right? Like I always say, like, especially during those 30 to 50 years, like get visible, get loud. You don't need to be away for 20 years of your life, like in some room healing and doing all of that deep work, right? All of that is going to support and help you, but get out there, be seen, talk about it. Have people hear your stories, you know, get yourself out of just being up and looking like you really want to, again, experience and live and share that wisdom. And then your 50 plus is like, essentially you're kicked off that roof and you're going back onto the floor, onto the ground to walk back down in the world and really teach through the emergence that you've had. So this is the most massive transformational piece for you. So that's where, again, a lot of people will hear, oh, 50 plus is when, like, I'm going to be the most successful. It's not true. It's just, you have like a whole lifetime of stories now, right? You have the most amount of wisdom you've ever had, and a lot of it at that point. So it's all about how deep can you go in and how much can you allow out of vulnerability your wisdom to pour out. That could be at age 35. It could be at 55. So your inner confidence, your inner worth, your inner power, and your inner trust for self and situations and where life is taking you, the unfolding of life, is critical for you guys. Okay. So in business, I always say like you're wise beyond your belief. You have to trust the life, like life as it's unfolding, really own that role model energy. So again, a lot of you can can go into those modes where, especially in communities where you are so relatable that you just want to give and give and give and give, right? So remember what you're doing. Remember you can go out and you can give and give and give and give and give. But what fulfills you, right? So don't just give because, again, you can be giving, right? Make sure that it's a fair exchange, that you feel really good about that giving, and making sure that you're walking in this very relatable way, but you have the wisdom that nobody else has, right? You are the one that has lived all of these experiences. You are the storyteller. So you have to make sure that you're allowing that version of you to step forward. Okay, so I'm going to catch up in the comments over here. My life, most people can't keep up with my changes. I love to travel, and I moved across the country 3 years ago. She'll meet her going to Florida Tuesday and Tulum next Thursday. Oh my gosh. Okay, isn't it so crazy when you're like, this all makes sense. Does this age range change impact 3, 5 lines? No, just the 6 lines, just the 6 lines. Bye, Lynn, enjoy. Okay, well, we are here before we get into anything. It's just so I can wrap up all of the lines. I'm going to go into like these more exciting names for you guys. Okay. Okay. Okay, so our one lines, as I said, like going back to our one lines, you guys are like these really, really hot teachers. Okay, so allowing yourself to bring your magnetism forward with knowledge, sharing, building confidence, even if it's not perfect, dropping that sale, dropping that call to action, like direct people of the information of where they're going to go find that information or how they can get it from you. Okay, add your personality. Do not just put in and be like, here I am, here's the info, here's the info, here's the info. Add your personality. You will not be magnetic if you are just like regurgitating information all the time. It will be very boring. Okay, so bring your aura forward, allow yourself to be seen. You are not just the teacher, right? You are the hot teacher. You're the hot teacher. So play with it, have fun with it. Sell. Okay, so our line 2 is the hermit. So any of our hermits here, remember, you guys like to be seen. I'm going to call you out as a sexy librarian. Okay. So you guys have that gift, right? Like you have the gift. Like if you walk into a library, like the librarian knows where everything is in that library. And you're like, how on earth? Like I'm asking for this book that like, I don't know, is 25 years old and you somehow know where it is, like off the top of your head. Like it's crazy. So when we add in the sexy librarian piece, again, like you have this gift that is so magnetic, your natural magnetism of just like what you're bringing to the table that you're never trying to do. You are just doing it because you're bringing yourself forward, right? And the allowing of letting them into your world. So allow yourself to be seen, allow the connections to be made, allow yourself to go hide, right? When you need to get, the library is closed, right? But when it is open, allow yourself to kind of push your edges and really own that aura of being that sexy librarian. And allowing yourself to just be seen for those moments. So even like stockpiling reels or content or videos, right? Like when you don't want to be seen, you can still have the library open and it doesn't always have to be you live in that moment. All right. Okay. So our line 3s are martyrs. So hot world life traveler. Okay. So you guys are these hot world life travelers. Again, you're full of wisdom because of your experiences, but you guys have more of like, so our 6 lines who have more of that like Buddha, that wisdom, that depth, you guys have this childlike innocence and joy, right? Like you're innocent, you're joyful, like you're just like, oh, I didn't expect that was going to happen. Boom, right? You get back up. So just like a lot of brightness to you guys. So hot world life traveler. So remember getting real, getting vulnerable, getting raw, and holding the power of the truth, holding the power of the lesson behind what went down. Okay. So when you go through your feelings and experiences and what you're learning through your embodiment, your authenticity of like bringing in that resiliency, bringing in that humor, bringing in that pleasure, bringing in that fun is just going to amplify your ability to effortlessly sell, right? You're going to bring in this part where it's so connected to you because you're so relatable. You're so relatable because of the stories that you're telling, the experiences that you had, the quote unquote failures you've gone through, right? When you bring those to the forefront and then bring in the layer of like, and here's my personality, and here's what I still think about life, and here's how I'm moving forward, and here's the process, and here was the lesson. You bring in a huge amount of power through that. So amplifying the magnetism through your storytelling, through your personality, and also through the big lessons for you and how you navigate it in terms of leadership. Okay, so our line 4s, well, you guys are the flirts. Flirty, flirty, flirty. So again, you are like that safety, that friendship. So remember, Melanie has said like Jack is like that glue, right? That holds everybody together. He's so trustworthy, so caring, so community bound. Again, like either micro or macro connections and relationships, but really bringing people together. Now, through your natural magnetism is going to be that self-acceptance, because a lot of fourth lines again will be like, oh my gosh, like, that insecurity of what do I show up to the party with? Like, what should I bring? What will everybody like? Instead of just showing up and being like, here we are. I know this is freaking amazing, right? Yeah. Okay. So the example I used in this was like the famous tuna tartare. So making sure that you know what you're bringing to the table. You are not bringing anything empty-handed ever, ever, ever. But that takes a lot of like your self-acceptance and your self-worth and your self-understanding in order to show up and build those connections, not just make a friend and not just be good at connecting with people, but knowing that inside of that connection, you're bringing something that nobody else is bringing at that party. So important again to get your people engaged. So allowing connection, whether that's behind the scenes, we were talking a little bit about that last night inside of Voxer, that can be behind the scenes in the inbox and the DMs, that could be public, right? Where you're making connection and you're bringing people into the conversation. So for example, I've been doing this a lot. Obviously I'm not a fourth line, but an example of that, like, add to what I'm saying inside of my post, like which of these do you resonate with, or what would you add to this? So I think I did an emotional authority video and I was like, what would you add to this? Right? So it's bringing people in to connect and bring their wisdom to the table too. Anything in human design, this is really important to understand in like all aspects of human design. Anything that is good for us, like as a fifth line, I'm a leader. So I'm speaking to leaders a lot and I want to call leaders in, right? So something that would be good for me, I want to bring to the table for them. So if it's going to work for me, again, I'm a projector. I am here for the invitation. I invite people a lot, right? So if it's good for me, I'm going to do it. The flip side of that is that we can also use it in a way that we normally would not do or buy or post or sell. We can utilize and be like, ooh, I normally wouldn't do it like this, or I don't do it like this, but I'm going to do it like this to attract people in, to utilize that magnetism. So for example, obviously, again, I'm a splenic projector, but I will sell a lot to the sacrals, right? And I know how to activate a sacral and what to do or say. But if you're just sitting there and being like, okay, what do I normally do that is so comfortable for me inside of my reels, inside of my posts, inside of my content, what I normally do, how could I switch it up and do something that like, ooh, I don't normally do, but like wouldn't potentially be engaging to somebody else? We can play with all of these other buyers out there, right? And also attract in the opposite of what we normally would do because of what normally works for us. Okay, so that was fourth line. And then fifth line is the heretic. And I just said for us, it is all about the seduction, right? So it's all about the fun, the leadership. It's all about you're here to lead. You're so confident in how you're leading. You're embodied in that and you show up as you. So a lot of trust and safety is really cultivated from you because of that. And then your magnetism is like that fun. Add the fun in, add the laughter in, add the seduction, add a little bit of like that charm that you naturally have too, and still be very clear cut. Be very direct, be very like, here we go over here, right? Show people where to go. You are leading them. So have fun with it, but lead. And then our 6 lines. Okay. So I called you guys, well, I normally would call you guys like, you know, the Buddhas, but also like the compassionate babe. So because of the depth that you guys have is like that compassion. So this would be something to really amplify in your content as 6 lines, compassion, compassion, compassion. Again, how this relatability, but like you want to invite people in such safety because of how much you can hold of other people because of the wisdom that you have, right? So that compassion is going to attract people into your world. And while they're in there, then you're going to be able to understand, like, you can hold it. You can hold it. You are here for it. Like, there's nothing that is too big for you to be holding that compassion. But at the same time, again, you are leading, you are supporting, and you are holding it together. Right? So you're side by side with them in that relatability and that trust and that compassion and that safety. And at the same time, like, your job is to bring that bigness there, right? I've got you. We're moving through this, you know, not just I'm a shoulder to cry on, but really that power that you bring to the table to bring them to the next place, to bring them where they want to go. Whether this is deep healing for you, a lot of 6 lines will be healers. Whether that is healing for them or whether that is like a more direct path of like leadership in terms of, I know what to do and I know what not to do, and I'm going to support you in that. Okay, so we'll have all of that remade for you guys, so you can have that PDF and just kind of play with that and play it around. I'm a flirty wise Buddha. I love it. Our 4th line's people pleasers, very, very often, very often. Now, a lot of lines, though, our conditioning, especially as women, is to be a people pleaser, right? But we will see our 4th lines people pleasers a lot, our 5th lines people pleasers a lot. Our 2 lines, iffy, not as much. Our 1s and 2s, not as much. But specifically our 4s and 5s, because they're really integrated with other people, right? So our 4th lines, again, is all about networks and connections and communities. Our 5th lines is all about expectation and leadership, right? So a lot between our 4s and 5s. Okay, I will open up the floor, you guys, to some coaching, specifically around your profiles. Amazing. So if anyone wants to hop on, feel free. Just, Okay, first, I'm going to start with Cassandra in the chat. Okay. Can you share examples of the 5-1 hot teacher and seductive leader when offering a confidence program and a leadership for impact program? What they look like? I tend to get into my head when I think about business stuff. Okay. So, I mean, okay, off the top of my head, like what I immediately saw was, okay, so in terms of offering a confidence program, what you would be doing in the 5th line role or in your 1 role would literally be breaking down the, like, here are, you know, let's say the steps for it, right? Here's what you do. Here's what you don't have. Here's how you feel right now. And here's where we want to get you. So you're bringing them and painting them that picture. Now, where I would actually show that embodiment would be through your speaking. I would go on and I would do a lot of videos. I would show you a lot, right? In that confidence, in that power, and in that leadership. I would also do things like reels. And again, like, have yourself be seen, like walking. You don't even need to say a lot, right? So the thing about like that 5th line specifically, you don't need to say a lot, but you need to show it. So you need to show what that looks like. You have to let people see you in action. So again, whether you're speaking about it or whether you're just like, you're out there and you're like, oh my God, like that woman is confident. Like, how can you show that? How can you capture that? And then again, your 1 line would go in with more of that information and facts, and been there, done that, moved myself through it. Here's how I did it. Here's what I'm teaching you. Here's what we're going to do inside of it. And you're going to go from here to here. Okay. And then so similar, right? Leadership for impact. So it would be the same thing. I mean, you would be teaching, your teaching would be, what is leadership? What does leadership look like? What is not leadership? Like, in these ways, you also want to be very aware. In our 1 line, it's very good for us to be showing and talking about things that are and things that are not. right? So if you're here, like this is not working for you as a leader, this, give real life examples, like really explain the thing or give them that factual information for them to be like, oh, no wonder, right? No wonder why that's not working. No wonder why I'm not selling, because I'm not selling or whatever, right? So go into it again of showing leadership, giving real life examples, and then moving into that impact. Like what looks impactful for you? Like what would an example of that be? Like maybe sitting at your desk, like a really impactful day. Maybe it is freedom. Maybe it is testimonials, like add those things in there. So any word that you have, I would be showing through that fifth line. Could you touch on, okay, so 2 and 4, so how they work together. Oh, it's for contradicting lines. Okay, so 2 and 4, so how they work together. So in all of human design, we are going to find at least one element inside of your chart that is contradictory to another element. So you're going to sit here and be like, well, I'm a 2 and I'm a 4 and I'm supposed to be alone and I'm supposed to be with people. What on earth? So what this means is it's not 100% of the time. So specifically when we look at our profile, it is literally divided in half. It is half of you and half of you. So half of you, yes, is a very socialized person and needs to connect and is so important. The other half of you needs to retreat. So your job is to, again, notice when it's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little burnt out. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling exhausted. I need to lean back. You have to go retreat. Right? You have to do that. You have to give that to yourself. If we play on 100% of one of these sides, it's not going to work. We're not going to be magnetic. We're going to be burnt out. We're going to be overwhelmed. We're going to be exhausted. We're not going to be aligned. It's not going to be working. It could work in general, but it's not going to feel like it's working for us. Something is going to fall. So in order for it to be quote unquote balanced, we have these two sides of us and we need to play with both of them. So in that, it just means that even the beautiful part of it is the fourth line, the people in your life are going to call your 2 out and be like, hey, it's time to get back out. Like, hey, remember, this is who you are and this is what you do. Let's go. Okay, somebody typed up here. Sorry, guys. Oh, Jenny, before Cassandra. You want to hop on?
Hi. Don't mind my eyeball. I had a photo shoot yesterday and it's like there's like residual makeup still.
You look gorgeous.
My eyeball like leaking.
You're
like
always
crazy.
Glowing. I'm like, how are you just your skin?
It's the natural light comes in my office.
Perfect.
Okay. I feel like there's like so much in here, but I'm not going to let it out on this call because I know we're nearing the end and it's because of everything that came up through Jacqueline's call. But I feel that the 2 parts of my line, like my 6 and my 2, completely embody almost the question, which is I have an entire brand around like freedom is my currency, right? Like escaping the matrix, moving my family from Canada to Mexico. Like, I mean, now it all kind of makes sense now that you've just explained everything. I'm like, yes, okay. So right in alignment. So like my whole brand is this, and like even my social selling product is like all around frequency and vibration. So it's like, okay, perfect. So we're like living this life that allows for flexibility and change and also allows me to hermit like whenever I need to, because there's like pretty much no expectations on me when I can choose when and how to show up. The flip side of what I'm like launching into create, which this huge visions that I've had, and then so much unleashed during Jacqueline's meditation around it, that like I weaved together from my whole life, like where this whole thing has been kind of coming in would almost be like, I'm not going to say the opposite of what my brand currently is, but it's way more like, I would say corporate, and my brand is like exit the corporate. And then this side is like, hi, I'm coming into the corporate to teach you. And it's all around it's all around like the wisdom I share, like it's like this gift that I take anything, any methodology, curriculum, like you name it. I was the person that got sent to learn it in corporate. And then I would come back and then my company would have me teach it to like all the top level leaders. Like it's just, I just have this gift to take in curriculum methodologies and then teach it way better and way more fun and way more engaging than like anybody. And so like the work that I want to do with that for my own business now I feel like is like this flip side of it. So it's like a part of it. I'm like, do I want to get into me getting on an airplane, flying to these swanky hotels and like delivering these 3-day high level, like Fortune 500 company workshops. And then, you know, being in this like la-di-da kind of like vibe. And then all of a sudden I just like come back into my little Caribbean golf cart community, like, I don't know what I am, like cave or whatever that is. Like I couldn't figure that out on that website, but I just feel like they're very opposite. And so one brand doesn't speak to the other big, massive, huge vision that I have, which I haven't done anything with yet. It is a concept right now, but I feel like they're like kind of opposites.
Really, I see them very similar. I know like the containers are very different. But really, when you're going into the corporate world, aren't you helping support freedom there?
But I kind of feel like I'm like entrepreneur, left corporate, worked my 60-hour work weeks for 11 years that drilled me into the ground. Like have your own business, start your own business, borderless business, work from Wi-Fi. And then I'm going into corporate. I'm like, all right, my friends that work 60-hour work weeks, let's find you freedom here in your cubicle. Like, it just feels like,
oh, like more out of integrity.
Yeah. Like they kind of look, they found me on Instagram. They'd be like, oh my God, do not get this girl in here. She's going to just get everybody to exit the matrix with her, you know? So I kind of feel like they're separate, but yet they hold both my lines so beautifully.
Yeah. You know what though? I honestly see that inside of corporate, like what you would be doing would be creating more freedom. Not everyone wants, you know, to pick up and move. So if you can actually understand and go in and be like, some people actually would just, they do want to work corporate, but they want more freedom inside of corporate. They want the leaders of these businesses, especially in where we're going inside of our business paradigm and corporate world, are understanding now more than ever how important it is for their employees to be happy, for them to feel like there's a sense of freedom and respect and honor inside of their individuality or lifestyles inside of corporate. So I think what you're doing is you're bringing your version of you here into that world, not out of lack of integrity, but out of full integrity, so that people can still live in the utmost freedom inside of the corporate world if they don't want to leave. And potentially maybe they will, but guess what? These employers are so freaking amazing that they're not worried because of their leadership's going to be so on point. They're not worried these people are going to leave because they're going to be happy and they're going to be seen and they're going to be, you know, understood and felt respected inside of the work that they're doing. So I feel like this is on your terms. Completely, entirely, 110%. You will never get into a situation where now you're working for corporate unless you want to. So you get to contract these jobs on your terms, your time, your way, obviously in collaboration with what they're looking for, how you can support that. You're going to go out there. I've heard you speak about this. You're going to do your thing, you know, and then you're going to be like, bye-bye. And I'm on my plane back to my life. You know, you get to do that. It gets to be that easy. It gets to be that effortless, and it gets to feel that good. And the moment that it doesn't feel good, bye-bye, and back to the life that you created, right? This gets to be, let's play with this. It doesn't need to be so, oh my gosh. Sometimes we need to find out if it is in full integrity, if I'm just overthinking it, or yeah, maybe it's not in integrity. But don't box yourself in. Like that's what you're doing again. You're boxing yourself into like, I created this identity and this definition of myself, and now I have this like amazing passion for something, and I'm not letting myself bust out of this box. Bust out of the box, have fun with it, see if it works, see if you love it. If you don't, you get to go back.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. You guys, I'm the worst at this part of going through. I'm like, was it a hand or a text question in here? Okay. I'm going to go down here and we're going to go to Suzanne. I have a question about
Juliana. I think it was Juliana, Jenny, Juliana, Christie, Olivia, Suzanne. Someone wrote it up there
Amy,
earlier.
Amy,
for
did
you.
you see what I put? If you click show participants, it will show in the order that people raise their hands at the bottom next to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It just because then some people are also texting or like writing it in there. So I'm trying to go
Oh,
back
yeah.
and forth. Okay. Thank you guys. Okay. So. Oh, here I have it's Christie.
Juliana is now tagged, that's why.
All right,
Yeah,
Juliana. Juliana, here we go.
I'll go after Juliana. Let her go first. Yeah.
Going. Cool. So I had a question, Amy, and I'm also a splenic projector. I have to look it up still, 3-5. So we're very similar, I think, in our like human design. This is all very new to me. So my question, I guess, is I'd had this idea for this brand of like called Wealth Bravery. And I hired someone to work with me on like putting some like some videos and some really kind of polarizing content together. And she actually came up with her Wealth Society because she didn't have access to my domain to set up the webpage and all the things. So her Wealth Society feels like in a previous life, even like before the Matrix, that would have felt totally like pretentious and like too big to contain and all the things. But now it's starting to feel like, yeah, like that's really cool. I feel like that would be a really cool brand, a big enough container to be able to like play in. And it's feeling, so I'm having a hard time distinguishing between is the fear and like going into my head that I'm feeling about like her Wealth Society is like, who do you think you are? Like, who are you to like, launch the Her Wealth Society? Like, it feels really, it feels like there's going to be like a whole bunch of judgment and all the things versus like Wealth Bravery feels very like, I can totally contain that. And it's like the name of the mastermind and all the things. So I'm just wondering if you had some thoughts from you around like being a splenic projector and just working through this, like, is this a fear thing? Is this like a terror barrier thing? Or is this like, how would you think through, if you have an idea that feels exciting and feels expansive, but then you kind of pull back from it for whatever reason, is that a fear thing? Or is that like, and I don't have like the full thing all mapped out. Like, I mean, I could see live events and I could see, I could see masterminds and I could see like roundtables. I could see really marrying the, the private equity, the startup, the angel investing world with the whole generator, be your own bank type of world, and bringing those, like bridging those two worlds together, those two conversations, which right now are very siloed. Do you have some thoughts on how you would consider like it, and especially as we're quite similar in terms of our human design, like how you would think through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the name of it again?
So one is called Her Wealth Society. And I actually have like a 2-minute video that I'd love to share with the group inside the Facebook group and just kind of get your feedback on it. But it's a play on, in the past, we've had like men have had their kind of secret societies and like deal flow and talking deals and like making money and creating wealth. And so now it's kind of time for women to have their own. And I also don't want it to be like, I don't want it to be like a man bashing thing, because that's not what it is at all. It's just about like empowering women to be able to hold and expand and contain wealth, like big wealth, legacy wealth. So one is like, it's her Wealth Society would be like the brand, versus Wealth Bravery, which is what I've been putting out there lately. Yeah. And then how you'd position that in the market, like in social media. And
yeah, I feel like this is, the fear behind it is really you stepping out and owning you being a woman, you leading this, because even when you said, the fear of the judgment and even like men bashing, and you said like you're used to sitting at a table with men, right? So I am just going to assume that you do have respect and you do have understanding and you do have all of that insight, where it's like there would never be, you wouldn't go out and there is no bashing. But there is this rise in like, wow, women need to understand this, and women need to be at a table where they're comfortable and feel safe. And, it's coming from a woman who's leading this. So
Yeah.
I think when we really lean into it, the biggest thing as a projector and having that fifth line is, can I go and like you just did, you literally just did it. Can I explain from my heart and my soul what this means?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can do that with full integrity and full trust in myself, it's golden and people will get it. There will be, of course, people that won't, but it will very much like dilute the potential of people assuming and coming and saying anything like that. So again, the more you explain it like that, like when I say rich, and I was like, you know, that the word rich came up in so many of my client conversations, and none of them were really talking about like being so rich, you know, and I'm like, oh, like we feel like it's such a taboo word, but what we're talking about is rich in time and rich in freedom and rich in health and rich in happiness. Like, can we now redefine what this word means? And can we openly lead with the definition of our understanding of it? So I think it's the redefining for you and coming into like this full integrity and interpretation and ability to communicate really what you stand for, what the brand stands for, and what you guys are representing in women coming to this table, where they finally, or not finally, but they at this moment in time feel really safe and empowered and excited to be sitting at that table and having the conversations that men are having in a different way, because we're bringing in different topics to these conversations, right? So that's a space where they get to do that.
And would you say that as projectors, you know, when we're doing like social media stuff for marketing, is it better to you know, to speak, to use your voice to explain, versus like in writing, as in like thought pieces, or both? Like, is there
I do find both. I do find that like speaking, like our voice, like, so we have to be seen, heard in order to be recognized as projectors. So having that visual piece and then having that connection with your voice is a deeper level of connection for people, but it's not to say that that's all you can do, right? Like go out and write the post and put the quote card and, you know, all of those things, but it does invite people in more.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Super helpful. Exciting.
Thank you. It's exciting. Thank you. Okay, Christie, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. This was helpful for me today to understand my 5 line, because I feel like that has been like a huge piece of who I am, but I didn't know how it really fit. So as a leader, as a natural born leader, as you say, like what's really helpful, I sometimes get lost when I'm on this path, but I don't really see the greater purpose. Like once I see it, it's like, oh, I can go back and like, it's really easy for me to say this connects to this, this, and then I can kind of follow the path to lead people in that direction. So like the context is really important. So as we were sitting here and I was kind of looking at my offers and what I have, and then really a lot of it, like what I stand for is like personal power, your truth, your inner knowing, your wisdom, your like, and this leads you to lead in different areas of your life. And like it's like the Align to Lead is one of my programs. Magnetic Influence is another one of my programs. Like it's really funny becoming her, like they're kind of all there, and I haven't had a chance to really get into them yet. So, because this is all stuff that I've created here at the end of the year, and now I'm just going into it for this year. So I guess my question that I have for you is, when I think about financial wealth, freedom, and time freedom, which is ultimately what I want for women, the 3 of those is what I stand for. am still a financial advisor. I haven't decided to take on this part and connect it to my overall vision and what I'm doing with coaching and mentoring and leading. So I'm not entirely sure, like when I bring it in, I feel like I've got these pieces of me all over the place, and I'm trying to grab it through my context and then speak to it. So I want to speak to it through my reels. I heard you say I need to show more of what I'm doing, allow myself to have fun, to be in that energy, that's enough. And then I need to speak to the leaders, I think is what, because I sometimes get lost when I'm trying to just say, okay, what's my higher level self? Because my higher level self kind of, I feel is like a version of me, but isn't always, it's like that paradigm, the existing paradigm and who I'm becoming person. And I get lost about like how to really be clear who I'm speaking to. So I want to be speaking to the leaders, but maybe I'm just not really sure if I do that and how to do that fully as I start to launch into some of these other leadership and business types of programs that I have up and coming.
Yeah. Okay. So I think like, first of all, of course, everything is so aligned, like all of your program names. I love it. So the thing about like Fifth Alliance too is like this identity, right? We are constantly evolving our identity. And as we're projecting out, right? Identity work is so important to us. So I think it's important for you as you're coming out with these, that you're also like, I just see like you bridging them all together at the same time. So even like the financial advisor, like I was like, becoming her is like the really, smart woman, the woman that is so smart with her finances, the woman that is extremely organized, like online, offline, like in her business, in her life, the woman that is, cares about the, the refinement and, the presentation of things. Like becoming her is like this process of refinement that I think you can bring all of these elements in that are you already, right? And as you're speaking to that leader, you're speaking to the leader that is desiring that next piece. So oftentimes when I speak to the leader and when I'm bringing in multiple elements is I'll think, okay, so imagine they have this. Ooh, that's the weak link, right? That's the piece they don't have yet. So you don't need to like limit what you're doing. You also don't need to be like, there needs to be perfection in everything, because the things that you list down, there's going to be like a weak link there. Everyone, all of us as leaders are sitting here being like, yeah, I got this. Ooh, I don't want to talk about that. Right. So that's the thing that you want to bring in. And I think as you form your programs or as you become more clear on what those are, those would be good branches to go off of. Right? Like a branch over here and a branch over here. I see like becoming her as the entire package, like refinement piece of it all, but like those other little elements. And then that's maybe even where you could be adding in the future, if it does work, adding in that financial piece to it that you have the background.
What do you mean the other elements? Like the other like programs that I have?
Yeah. So you could like be
becoming her is not a program, or becoming her is a program, but it's kind of like the backbone of everything. It's kind of why I've led with it,
Right.
So what do you mean these other
So then
elements?
what were the other two that you had?
Okay. I started, my programs were, I didn't sell the manifestation mindset, like it didn't sell, but I had that because I'm strong in the mindset area. And I was just going to do that just for those that want to like amp up their mindset. And then I have Becoming Her, which is all about personal power, your confidence, your boundaries. It's like your feminine sides as well. And that kind of ties into the lineage part, which I feel called in right now. So that includes that. And then magnetic influence is like who you are, your truth, your connection to that. And then how do you bring that online? Like, how do you even go from working from in person or like, traditional to now online? Like there's a little bit of that. And then I have Align to Lead, and that's just for leaders that are increasing their leadership. And then I have one that's Emergence, and that's like a transformation of working a lot. And because the leaders do have that and they don't have their priorities, they're kind of jacked. And so that's kind of like coming back and they're back to their feminine energy from their masculine. And then my last one is I have one on money, which is going to be, I'm going to tie in the financial piece. And then it would be duplication delegation, which is like, how do you scale your business? How do you raise up new leaders within that? Those are my programs for 2023. I haven't done any of them other than Align to Lead. Yeah. So.
Okay. I love it. I love all of those. Okay. So then your question is you becoming each of those or speaking to the leader inside of each of those?
Speaking what's the leader inside of each of them? And then I need to, for myself to like put myself into it, I need to come from a bigger context and connect myself, who I am, what I'm doing, do it my way, the way that is aligned for me in integrity, and deliver this piece that connects all these things so that people know what I stand for. It's kind of part of that. Like, I feel like I'm not seen for who I am. Like, as when you talked about the line 5, like that's really me. And I just don't know how to come from like this high, I see the pieces, but I don't know how to speak from this higher self that connects all the pieces, this path that I'm leading people on. And that's the part that's missing for me. And then my identity pieces, how do I bring those all back in?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where we have to go in of like all of these identity pieces. You are all of these. Like you are all of these. So it's like,
it is my embodiment. Yes.
Yes, it is your embodiment. So in this 5th line and the energy that we're projecting out. So when you decide to go in for like the aligned leader, right? Like you're putting on that hat and you're stepping into leadership. And you're talking as a leader, you're presenting as a leader, you're bringing leadership conversations and context out. So I think like it's almost overwhelming to bring one context to all of what you're doing. Your context needs to be like the integrity and morals of who you are and what you stand for. Then you're going to bring in a mini context into each of those as you go to sell and launch those. They are you all the time, but you can't be leading with all of those energies at all times.
Okay.
Even if you're selling multiple things, like you get to sell multiple things, do your thing, but like, be like, I'm in the mode of this, and this, right? Like switch your hats.
Like Melanie was saying, like I'm niching in the programs part of that then. Okay.
Exactly. And literally put on the hat. Like be like, all right, and now we're in the feminine hat. Like now we're in the feminine embodiment, right? We are leaning back. So your presence changes, your posture changes, the way you speak, the conversations you're having, like what you're bringing forward. That's the context of what we're projecting out. If you were launching, the feminine, you're not showing up like in boss mode. You're not, right? You're showing up in goddess mode. So you're going to bring that identity forward.
And I guess there's a little bit of like part of the issue that I'm having too, is that I left my leadership position. Like I left my job and now I'm in this new identity. I'm like a coach or mentor. And I'm like, I don't have the results yet from this line of work. I have them from my other. And so the identity part and my confidence is a little bit shaken by the fact that I can speak. I clearly am all those things. I have the results of what I did and I'm going to use that. But when I speak in this term, and I think that's the part that I'm like, what am I doing? Exactly. Like, what am I doing? I'm leading people to, and that's where the context and the purpose piece comes from that I get sort of like wishy-washy on.
But that's where like your big context is going to be hard because again, like all of us, like if somebody asked me what I do, I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's too hard to explain when you have all of these areas and all of these different people that you're supporting. So you're going to come in with your integrity, your morals, your values, what you stand for is going to be your big context.
Yeah.
And then your mini context for each of those matching the identities of what you stand for and who you are as it. Now, in terms of the confidence, this literally just takes practice. One of the best things in, our shifting of identities and like really being like, I'm owning it as a 5th line specifically is literally going to be like, okay, this is her, right? Becoming her. This is her. Right? I'm feeling a little bit shaky here. I don't have my confidence here. So what am I going to do to own this? And you literally become it. So whether that means a photo shoot, whether that means, like a setup of something, whether that means a new outfit, whether that means a red lipstick, whether that means, reading and studying the books and doing the habits and waking up at 5 a.m., like whatever it means for you in that shift of identity, become it, go do it.
And I should share that part vulnerably as like I had this and this is what I'm leaning into. And to be able to embody that these are the things that I'm doing. Can I share that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And even shifting, like, you know, you are it and you have all of it, exactly what you're talking about. Just this line of work, you're walking, it's just a different room, right? So
Yeah.
you're adjusting to the room and how your confidence builds in that room. That's all, right? Because it's not like you're transferring and some of the skills have dropped. It's just feeling confident in a different environment.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it's just letting yourself and that authenticity, where in corporate, right, it is very, you are expected to show up in a certain way and do in a certain way. And here you're like, well, I'm being me. So who is this authentic version of that leader of you?
Yeah. And I feel like my audience too is like, we know you like this, and they're sort of like, what is happening? Like, we haven't seen this part of her, and they're watching, but they're not on it. Like, they're not jumping to buy my stuff. And so I don't know if it's me.
But that's where I would call yourself out. Like, I've had many times too, where I'm like, boom, just flip the switch. Here we go, guys. Like, you know, like, I'm going to present to you, like, so nobody's questioning and wondering. I will tell you what's going on. Right. So that's where it comes in. And it's like, it is that's
good leadership.
Yeah. We're like, okay, and go, you know, and you just got to go, because then you're working with it, you're running with it. Right. And again, like, in order to diffuse as many projections as possible, I would rather go out there and tell you exactly what's going on than have you wondering. Sometimes I do play with that. Like, I play with curiosity a lot, but then when it comes to like my identity and me, I'm very clear about those pieces.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. These are really big pieces for me of this puzzle. I'm grateful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Okay, Olivia.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm in a calm energy with my glass of wine, and yeah, I'm pretty good. So I have some really straightforward questions. So I'm managing 3-5, and I think that's what I'm struggling. So my work is the alchemy. So I guide my client to create their own alchemy with their business. And sometimes I have people coming to me to have some advice. And for me, creating a space for them to create their alchemy and me giving them advice, it's not compatible. Because at some point, some people are waiting for me to give them their answers. And at some point, they are just leading themselves. So I would love to maybe discuss about that.
So basically, you want to fine tune the people that are coming into your world for you to be supporting them from your base, not them coming in and expecting the answer or the change from you. Basically, you to be holding the magic, to be like, boop, everything has changed. Them coming in and being like, let's do the thing and let's figure it out. And you are the support. Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel that people give me their power. So for example, you know better than me. So what should I do for my business? And I think when sometimes the energy is not clean, they don't take responsibility for their own business. And what I feel is that I have two types of clients, like the new entrepreneurs, and sometimes they project on me that I know better than them. And I have the experienced entrepreneurs who are willing to receive some advice.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So do you also enjoy working with the new entrepreneurs if they're coming in without those expectations?
I love it because I know that I can give them some really basic understanding of business.
Yeah.
And I think a part of me, and it was another fear of mine, if I talk to two type of clients, I have the fear that my the new entrepreneurs say, but you don't talk to me anymore.
Mm.
Like you abandon me.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to master to speak to target at the same time.
Okay, so I feel like this is actually very fun. So even as like looking just like at a grid, what I would do for you, and again, you're going to go off of sacral hits on this, but what I would do is being a 3 and being a 5. So combining these together, you have stories to tell. You have real life examples, like even just in what you shared with us, right? You have real life examples. Turn those into posts. What to do, what not to do. Questions I get asked that are beneficial, questions I get asked that, you know, are redirecting to self-responsibility and deeper self-reflection, right? Like literally be like, here are, yeah, I would give those real examples. Your leadership as that 5th line is now standing as I am the leader. What I do is I hold space, but I am not the one telling you what is right or wrong. I'm here to support you, to support your system, to support your energy and your personal power, but not to provide the answers. So if you're looking for results based on exactly do as, you know, here's what I am going to tell you to do, that will not happen here. So I would give examples of like what does happen in your world, what doesn't happen in your world. You know, what kind of work you do. And then I would also have the different conversations between, without making it wrong, because it's not wrong, but there are different conversations between new entrepreneurs and ones that have been in it for a while, right? So I would also just have those different conversations without any of it being wrong, because again, you want to call in those most aligned new entrepreneurs because you enjoy that. So what does the conversation look like there? What's an aligned conversation? What's a misaligned conversation? What's an aligned, misaligned conversation? Even over here, as experienced entrepreneurs still have misaligned conversations, right? Just the different conversations that are being had inside of those containers.
Yeah, for example, I had like a question about boundaries today, and it's okay if you are new entrepreneurs, I would rather do this. But if you like an expert entrepreneur, I would rather do this.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So then you get to blend all of the worlds, all of the everything together, but you're holding your standard and your boundary in both of those containers, both of those spaces, right? And you're continuously presenting yourself of, again, what you do and what you don't do.
Yeah. And my other question, because I'm conscious about the time, is about, I wanted to, you say that for line 5, we have to guide our clients. So I wanted to do a post about this is where we are going this year. Like for new entrepreneurs, this is where we are going this year. And for expert entrepreneurs, this is where we are going this year. And I wanted to do that post because I think it can also be a clear energy on where I'm going to and with whom I want to work with.
Yes. And the skills that you have. So for example, like I will often give the example too of a 5th line, like we see where the water is. And then we're like, come on, guys, follow me. I'll get us to the water. You bring the buckets, like you bring what we need, you bring our supplies, and I'm going to get us to the water. So it's like, again, calling their skills, what they're bringing to the table, what they're ready for, how you operate and how you work. You're leading, but they're getting there.
Okay. I see the difference. Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy that wine. Okay, we're going to take one more and then that should bring us to 3 o'clock. And I apologize, but the rest we can just hop into Voxer and I'll be in there later today, later tonight after dinner, and then tomorrow as well, most of the day tomorrow. So Suzanne, you are next up.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so my question is not quite as much about the lines, more about being a projector. Because I do operate in sprints. I mean, I'm a 6'2", just, you know, but I also can work, you know, like I can get in and really go when I'm motivated. And then I know how to kind of do the sprints thing. But you said something on one of the calls very early on, which was that you work like 6 to 12 hours a week. And so my question is, how have you been able to do that? Like, what's the strategy? What team do you have in place that supports that? Because my struggle is really letting go and letting someone else to come in and trusting that. And then also, as you know, because we've had multiple conversations about me really trying to create this new level of who I am online versus this portrayal that apparently that I've done. And so really, like, when I look at building this next level of my business, I'm just curious, how have you been able to create such success with a level of hands off or a level of 6 to 12 hours a week? And was it always like that, or is it just like that now?
I mean, to be honest, it's pretty much always been like that. So I came into this game being like, that's what I'm doing. So I was very cautious not to overextend and overdo. In the weeks that I did more, again, it was like there's chunks of time and focus that I'm able to focus. I could keep going. I just know I cannot sustain that. And I know that I do not want to. And I know that I can't because of my family, right? So there's all of these things where I'm like, there's no way that that's going to happen. So if I were to have, like, I will be very honest, like, and I've said this to Melanie too, like, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could work more. So I never want a projector to be like, I shouldn't, you know, like, if you're like, you have a defined heart, like, go do the thing, you know, like, if you have that capacity to do it and the capacity to make sure you're recharging yourself, go to the beat of your own drum. Make sure you do that. If it is something that you do desire to be more hands-off and to really be like, okay, I've got my people, everything's in place. Like, we're a well-oiled system. Like, it's all good. I know I can take time off. I know everything's fine. So basically how I built that for myself was I do have a lot of evergreen programs that are up and continuously running. I did build those over like 2.5 years to have all of that on my website. And then I've gone through a few teams. I have Mariana, who's absolutely incredible now. And we have one more person on our team, but I've really created and understood what I need and what I don't need. And I literally am now completely hands off. So before I would like just go in and check, but right away, like, I want to say it was before I had Hendrix, I had an additional reader. So I knew right away when I was like, my limit is I can't do this part anymore. I need an additional person there. So I had our first reader come onto the team and she took on all of the readings. And I was like, I'm not doing any other readings. I would like, you know, go and listen into a couple just to make sure like all was good. But it was like, here's the standard, here's, you know, the training. Here's moving forward, how it works. Here's, you know, again, the expectation of what needs to be met and making sure people are happy. And then we'll move forward. I never boxed in though to be like, here's the team for the next 3 years, you know,
Right.
like, I've been very strategic and careful in that way to make sure we're going to see how this goes. Once I set up an entire system and we had literally everything in our back end, like, anyone could go in there tomorrow and literally figure out what needs to be done because everything is written out, everything is organized. It's like super straightforward, so easy. Again, anyone can go in and figure anything out. So it was like, once that was in place, it was now about finding like the right person who was going to have the energy, who was going to have the capacity of even communicating with other people on my team, where like, I'm hands off and I don't need to do that. And they're figuring it out. And I just need to be like, okay, I'm here on this call at this time doing this. In terms of selling, I like to sell. So I've always continued to raise my prices. So right away, I was like, 1-to-1, I can only have so many 1-to-1s. That means I need masterminds. That means my masterminds are high level masterminds. And then I get to fill group programs where I can have as many people. It's, you know, most hands off touch from me. I'm going to have a team that's going to support people that are inside of there, but I'm showing up, teaching something on the calls, and then I'm out. So I've been very, again, like, I know where my price points are. I know what those are going to be, you know, even on a rotation. I don't worry about leaning into those because everything just ends up continuously falling into place because of that trust. But that's how I've continued to scale without overworking. There can be times where I'm like, oh, maybe I should do more, or I could do more. But again, it's like, that's not worth it to me in the end.
Okay, so for your evergreen, do you just have them on your website? You send emails occasionally, do posts occasionally. It's like nothing's really running to them. They're just there for people that come to your site looking around. Is that how that works?
Yep. So we do, one person on our team does emails probably like 5 times a week, and we will sell to certain people. Like, so we'll sell a projector post. And right now on Align by Design, like I'm just putting specific things out, and then she'll take that, turn that into a post, and then sell for a PPP, Projector Power Paradigm, right? Links it there, links an additional thing that would be an add-on to that potentially, and then they're brought to the website.
Okay. And then for the content piece of it, do you have someone else that, I mean, obviously you're creative, you're thinking about it, but, and I know you have your videographer, photographer, but as far as like who's making the thing that goes online, do you have like a specific person that does that, or how does that work?
No, I do that. So that's like, I don't think I could ever, I've played with it, but I don't think I could ever like be hands off of that, because it's literally like, I think about it. I'm like, oh, like, what do I want to post today? What do I want to talk about? What have we been talking about? Like, what's inspiring to me? Or like, I'll be in the shower and I'll be like, oh my God, that video or that song, right? And it just hits me. So that is always me, but that does not take me long at all. Like that literally would take me 5 minutes to post something.
Okay. So you had the videographer, photographer, but you're the one creating the stuff online.
Yep.
Okay. That was my main question, is I just wanted to understand a little bit more of that. It's very impressive. And I just wanted to hear your genius behind it.
Thank you. Thank you. And then even in terms of like calling in, like I call in really incredible leaders into my one-to-one spaces and high level masterminds. And I am, again, that 5th line. I'm very specific of like, this is how I run this. This is how I work. Most of my masterminds will be very, they're not like these masterminds where we're kind of coming to the table with discussions. Like it's usually like, we're going to learn about, let's say, being a 5th line, right? So I'm going to go through like the 5 pillars that are most important things over 5 weeks of what we're embodying as a 5th line, like what you're going to have to understand of what people are going to throw at you, what you're going to, learn how to stand for, how we're going to embody that, how we're going to integrate it. Or let's say it's, a projector mastermind, the too much, right? Like I literally go in and I'm like, I'm teaching these things. We're working on this one thing all week. The Voxer is here to, guide and support whatever is going on. And then we come back, meet for the next thing. By the end of, let's say 5 weeks if we've done everything, there's a transformation.
Okay. That's a good idea. I haven't really done the mini masterminds. I have a 6-month one, but I haven't done the mini one. So that's a good idea too.
Yeah, they're potent and powerful. And honestly, again, like 5 weeks, like you can do so much in 5 weeks. And I keep those ones intimate and small, but then higher cost.
When you do like a 5-week one, how many, so this is my first experience of like a mini mastermind, and obviously there's lots going on. When you do one that's just you, how long, like how many times do you come together in 1 week?
So we'll come together once a week. So one call. So let's say there's usually 5 to 6 calls. So we'll do one call a week, like on Zoom. And again, I'm leading it. And then I do open up like the last 30 minutes of the call and we have conversations of what's going on for them. There would be between like 4 to 8 people inside of a mastermind. And then we do have Voxer, and I actually usually do a one-to-one call, a 30-minute one-to-one call with each person. So there is that one touch outside of the Voxer, outside of the Zoom calls.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, you guys, we're going to complete today's call. Thank you for all these questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them all. But pop into the group inside of Voxer. And again, I'll be in there later tonight. I just got to go get my kids and do dinner and all of the things. But I hope you've enjoyed understanding your profile lines more. We will update that PDF and get that into the group too, which will help you just kind of like, again, remember. And I swear to God, if you focus on being it's Jack's call right now. If we focus on literally integrating those 2 things, like things will just feel so good for you. So good. And magnetism just through the roof. I apologize for going over, Jack. If you are here, I think we're going to hop off and then back on. I love you guys. Ah! Oh, Jack said 5 to 10 minute break, or keep going. Keep going 5 minutes. Think it's a break. Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, let's meet back in 5.
5-minute break. Okay, bye guys.
Yeah.
you